Okay, yeah. Please play your own favorite music. I have a compile error. Not matching member function for call to find. The key here is a pair. Well, I suppose that the only thing that changed is this type here. So the pipeline layouts is a wrapped container being a map using this type as a key, where the key is a standard pair of this container and that vector. While the key here is a pair of this type as a first argument, as the first argument. Which is a sorted set layouts container, which is defined as a standard vector of set layout. So there is no utils vector anymore, and there is no set index hint as index there. I made that change because I do not want to use the hints as a sorting thing, so also not as an index. Instead, this vector is going to be sorted, yeah, by something else. And you would say, why are you not using a standard set or a map or something like that? And then you can add the sorting mechanism as a compare functor, but that doesn't work because I add things to this vector by adding something to its key. It's being sorted by the vector inside the set layout, this vector. And I'm adding elements to this vector. So then I'm changing the key. So I cannot use a set. That would literally make it a constant and definitely break the set if I would cast the const away. So So instead I'm just using it, storing it in a vector, and then every time I change the key I just resort the whole vector. I'm going to assume that this is correct, because I cannot remember it anymore, but this name is introduced like yesterday. So, well, that should be correct then, which makes it so that that's the type that I should use for this key here as well. Oh, even logical, because like I said, I do not want the set index hints to be part of whatever sorting. I hope I fix it with this change. Well, it doesn't know what sorted set layouts container is at that point. This is in logical device.h. It's defined in pipeline shader input data and in flat create info. I don't think at this point I know anything about flat. Maybe I do know something about shader input data. Only in a comment. Oh, here it is. So maybe you can just move this type higher up. Eclipse, hello. Yeah, let's see. It compiles. What about that? Let's see what the last changes were that I made. I made some changes off stream, I have to admit. Although most of the git diff is probably from changes that I made on stream as well yesterday. So if I want this still to work, then I need to be able to map my uniform buffer objects somehow back to the index of this vector. And really the only thing, the only thing that the objects themselves have is their key. And then the only thing that I can do that is convert them to the set index hint. So then this must be a vector that uses set index hint as an index, aka this type. But yeah, for the rest, it feels all very unlogical. So now you can ask, how the hell is it possible that I return this sorted? Well, it's a vector, and every index of that vector contains something. Now YouTube says again that my stream quality is bad or poor. Such nonsense. If I have a vector and that uses as an index, not an int, but a set index hint, then of course it is sorted between quotes by that index, right? Like literally. And I just said, and I wrote in the description, that I do not want set index hint, which is a bit fuzzy. I'm not really sure if it is correct value or what it should be, or if I'm going to change it, or maybe in the future I'm going to get rid of it completely. So yeah, I did not want to use it to in any way really to sort, yet I need it here. Well, it's being returned by this function here, realize descriptor set layout. So let me show you how I changed that function, because that's what I did off stream. This begins with m sorted descriptor set layouts. Which is a standard vector of descriptor set layout objects, which I showed often already, but here it is again. Basically, this set layout is simply a handle of the descriptor set layout, descriptor set layout handle, this. But I also have it contain the information that was needed to create the handle. So if this thing here is the same, then there's no need to create another handle, because it would just be two different handles pointing to the same thing. What I added was this. So it now also knows what a hint is, that was the set index hint that I was using, because I still need it somehow. And something that was sorted is sorted by exclusively by this vector. This is what I use to sort it. So that's the input. Having that vector sorted like that makes it easy to compare vectors and see that, I mean, this vector is sorted, but also a vector of set layouts are sorted using this vector. That's a vector of vectors that's sorted all by this information. And then I have two that are the same. I just know that they are the same, independent of the fuzzy hint that I have or whatever. Hello, ones and zeros. Yeah, nice to see you too. So this vector here, which is called sorted, must be sorted by that vector inside each element, each set layout element. Yes, so we do not sort it by hint, by the set index hint. We sort it not by the handle, obviously. That's just a random hexadecimal address or something. Or no, it's not an address, but something random. We sort it by the input, say the create info that is being used to create the descriptor set layouts. For a comparison reason. But now we have that. I run over all the elements of that, and so this thing is then one descriptor set layout after another. All of the ones that are in this container, and I call realize handle, which is create handle, except when it already exists. So looking at that create info vector, I say, did I already create it before? Then I get the handle from a cache, and otherwise I create a new one and store the handle in the cache as well as in the object itself. And then, and that's the whole point, we do this line. I assign to each element of this vector by the set hint, that is in the set index hint that is stored in the descriptor set layout, the handle. So they are stored in the order of this set index hint, which is then returned. Now, of course, that only works if there are the same number of elements in this vector as in this vector, which is also a vector. Well, there are, because that's how I make it. Here I declare this vector, and I give it, I say the size of this vector must be the same as the size of that vector. But well, then of course every index must fit. So we are going to have index 0 and 1 and 2 all up till that size -1, and if it is larger, then something was wrong. So hence the assert here. This assert does never fail, then apparently it was really true. So now this vector is sorted between quotes by the set index hint. Yep, I was looking at the diff, right? So let's look at the diff again. That was this line. So now this is sorted by set index hint, and I can just convert the key that I have from each resource, shader resource, back to the hint, and then use that as an index in this vector, and then I get whatever is stored in that vector, which is the handle to the descriptor set layout, and we pass it in the correct order, namely top, left, bottom, to that function. Okay, there was an unrelated bug fix. I did get here before these things were initialized. Would access an empty vector. That didn't work. So here we just wait until this atomic boolean is set, and then we do it. Otherwise we don't. You see a big change that previously I used the utils vector, which again, in case you missed that, is just a standard vector, but you can only use a special type as index for the operator square brackets. You cannot not use an int as you would normally do. It's pure type safety. And the index used for this vector is the set index, which is just a wrapper around the size type. But, as we just saw, by the way, this thing is not sorted at all by a set index. I don't even know the set index at this point. So instead now it's sorted by the creation info of the set layouts. Hence a type change. Now I see how that works. So the set index int is just a specialization of utils vector index. And you can use any type you want here as long as it's unique for that index. So I just name just take an abstract structure, which is then a type which I can use. In the end, it's just a size type. It's a wrapper around the size type. Yeah, I did yesterday a lot of renaming from set index, which really means the set number. But it turns out that this was not a set number, right? So I made a lot of renames from just set index to set index hint. Not really because I want to keep the hint, but more like to figure out which variables and types are really set index, so which would not be affected by changing the type. So a whole avalanche of changes was necessary as a result of trying to compile it and getting compile errors. And more or less everything changed. So the reason for that is that I just simply do not have set index yet. I still have to generate that. The whole code is missing and it's very heuristic and complex, and I don't think I can do that anytime soon. So instead I'll have to find some middle way and I don't know, make this work while keeping in the back of my head that in the future it needs to be it needs to be very flexible, so I can make those difficult changes later on, maybe, hopefully. So most of this I think is just renaming set index to set index hint. Looks like it. Also here renames of the types from util vector descriptor set layout, which is something that orders by set index, to something that is ordered by the create info of the set layouts. Penthy, yeah, Penthy, I don't know how do you pronounce that. Make a website with C++. Well, that's a random question. Probably by getting a library that supports everything you need that is written in C++. MZ index to shader. Also just a rename. I have to go over this faster, I think. Yeah, I think a lot of people are doing that. It's just too boring to sit in a chair doing nothing and watch me program. So a lot of my viewers are coding themselves, which is why I think I should play music. So everyone hears the same music. But yesterday was someone in the chat who said, "Why are you hurting my ears?" So I don't know if it seems obvious to me that most people might not like the same music as me. Everyone has a different taste, so it makes more sense that if everyone plays their own music. But on the other hand, shared experience is I think a very important part of being social together. So if we are all sitting here programming or playing games and then we all listen to the same music instead of listening to my voice, just listening to my voice, I think that gives a nicer experience actually. So maybe I should just play music, and then everyone who doesn't like the music, well, too bad. The people that are left will feel more happy, more one group. It's more of a social happening then. The music that I'm listening to right now is very, very good, I have to say, but probably copyrighted, so I cannot let it, cannot play it. It's called Slim Bro. No, it's called Butcher by Slim Bro. It's currently on the techno channel of www.di.fm, I think. No, it depends if you're paying, if you ask me. It's not always in sync. Okay, so before I see, the same amount of red and green, I think, okay, this is probably just renaming types, renaming variables. This is just deleting stuff that could be deleted. And here we get more green than red. So then we have a real change. Debug output is just renaming. You find the set layout corresponding to the set index hint, if any. I wrote this today, remember that. Yeah, well, I don't know. YouTube is doing that. Set layout push back. Oh, you did. That is very good. Now do it in Vulkan. I'll see you in 2 months. if you're lucky. A triangle in Vulkan is amazingly difficult. So here you see how I do that. We have a vector of set layouts, and then I'm adding to the vector inside the set layout, changing the sorting key. So after that change, I just have to resort the whole vector. That's how I'm keeping it sorted at the moment. Well, resorting the whole vector is a bit nonsensical, I guess, because it's already sorted and I change only one element. But then this sort should be very fast. I hope. So only one element has been changed. Oh well, I think I'm just going to commit this and then we're going to run it and see where it crashes and then go from there. The weirdest thing is that I remember that I did a commit where I said that I renamed setIndex to setIndexHint. Apparently I didn't. Git status, git commit. It's a whip, but let's say yeah, it's a whip, but also a rename. Introduce a setIndexHint. Running what? It doesn't crash. That's since a very long time. Oh, it didn't work, but it didn't crash. Interesting. So what does happen actually? We have now what is it called? Dear IMG interface. It's just always working. I really like that. I wrote it in a way that it is independently working of the test. So you can just, if you can run it and it doesn't crash, then the IMG is working. And it has a stats window with frames per second in it, which are limited to 60. That's why it isn't faster. But there should be a triangle here. So two triangles we should have. When I speak out loud, I hear my own voice back on the headphones at the moment. And it sounds distorted. This is distorted. Does this sound distorted to other people too? Just asking. Okay, clearly it's not working because of the validation errors. Let's go to the first validation error, which UBT GDP did not distort. Wow. Oh, okay. I'll just ignore the distortion that I hear then. Not sure where that comes from. This should stop at the first validation error. Validation error. Yeah, I did. Shader uses descriptor slot 0.1. That means set 1 binding, set 0 binding 1. Expected combined image sampler, but not declared in pipeline layout. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I have already complained about this error because it's very unclear. Also, it says validation error in function and then no function. So we don't know anything. And they agreed with me. So if I would upgrade my validation error library, I would to the latest bleeding edge, and we would get more information. I wonder if I should do that, or maybe that's a bit being too much sidetracked. I don't know how easy it is to replace that without breaking lots of things. So let's figure out the information that I need in a different way. I think that the reason that this is thread pool, this is thread 1 of the thread pool, which just called this function, entering this function. And so definitely the error is a result of whatever function I did call inside this function. This is my function, but it's calling a vulkan function. And that should be easy to find by just going up in the stack until we are inside the vulkan. So this is the debug callback where I have a trap point that's stop the code. And you go further up, we come into the validation layers. This is a validation pipeline shader stage. So it's checking that and then it found the error. This is still in the validation layers. And this is no longer, though this is the call to the vulkan API. And we are passing stuff that is not really, we are passing arguments that did not pass the validation checks. Now, instead of looking at this, I think I'd rather look at my own code, which calls this. So now we are in my own code, and I'm calling on the logical device, create graphics pipeline unique, with a pipeline cache handle and pipeline create info object that contains all the information to create this thing. So it must be that this is not what it should be. I'm not really interested in static stuff, although there's some more that just removed set print static off. I'll print it again. Well, it has a lot of pointers, so you do not see everything. You see that it has 2 stages, and then there's a pointer. So this is a pointer to an array of size 2, which has, yeah, more information, I would say. Now, I'm gonna go up again to the validation error. The shader, which shader? Well, that would be the shader that we are passing here. I guess there is a... I don't see it. Maybe it's hidden in one of those arrays. There is a shader, apparently, that uses this, which is not declared in the pipeline layout. Layout must be consistent with all shaders specified in P stages. Finally, we have something. So P stages is one of these things here. There's this one. So I'm going to have a look at the create info dot P stages 0, and the other one is 1. So here we have the shader module. So I have 2 modules here because I don't know even which stage it is. Really bad error, I think. So we have 2 shaders here, 1 and 2, and then one of these is using, it says, 0, 1. I think that must be the fragment shader. Pretty sure of it. Let me look. Where's my other window? Here. Although, I still have it, thank God. I commented it out, but as you can see, here's a vertex shader and it has only binding 0. Set 0, 1 and 2 and binding 0. And this one as well. And then I have 2 fragment shaders, and they use binding 1. Set 0, binding 1 here. And this one is set 1, binding 1. So assuming that the generation of the declarations worked, and then it must be this one. This is 0.1. So it says here shader, nobody knows which shader, but now I know, because I recognize the 0, 1. So the shader, uniform orthogonal 1 fragmentation shader, uses slot 0.1. Yeah, okay, yes. I mean, it's commented out, but I'm gonna assume that that was indeed the case. Which is a combined image sampler. So yes, definitely the fragment shader. This is a texture. But not declared in pipeline layout. Nevertheless, I still need to know, need to scroll down here, which of these 2 it is. Fortunately, this one is a vertex shader, so it must be this one. That's a fragment shader. Now we have to look for the pipeline layout. That should be hidden in here as well. So should look here without static stuff. Type is that, be next, flags 0, stage count 2, already had that. Vertex input state. There it is, layout, pipeline layout. The only thing we get is a handle. So that's not helping unless we can find back that handle in the debug output, which of course already scrolled off. It didn't scroll off. As you can see, the same information was printed here, even more. This is my own debug output. It's very verbose. Very verbose. Here it says stage count is 2, P stages, and then it prints the contents of the stages. So we see the fact vertex is this handle, and we have fragment shader is this handle. And the layout, unfortunately, is only the handle. But up here we see created object M pipeline layouts with handle, the handle which was in this function. Create pipeline layout. Now the pipeline layout is created from a vector with descriptor set layout. So we pass 3 descriptor set layouts. The first one and the second one are the same, and then the third one is different. And then I believe these 3 are ordered by the set index. So we're talking about this one. This is the layout that is being looked at. And that's wrong, because I bet this is the layout that we need. Why do I know that? Well, because I'm using 3 descriptor sets, and every descriptor set uses a uniform buffer at binding 0. And one of them is using a texture at binding 1. So the one that is different from the other 2 is the one that has a texture. And that is set 2 in this, if you order it like this. So of course I can go look at the layout of this one, but it's just simply not going to contain my texture. Nevertheless, let's try if we can find that. Well, something went wrong because this looks good. That is, I'm having here an element with the sorted bindings containing a binding 1 for texture for a fragment shader that I think has the set index hint 0. So that means that if the hint was followed, then we would have gotten this thing with the binding 1 in 0. This is my 0 point. Here's my binding, point 1. But for some reason it ended up there, in 2. Interesting. Must say it's kind of hard to read. There's a lot of information all on one line, all of this. But there is very little happening between this line and the line that calls create pipeline layout with the wrong order. So I guess just looking at the source code should make things a lot more clear. It's the same thread, and the indentation tells us that we didn't even leave this function yet. So we are inside try and place pipeline layout with the correct information. Then it says we cannot find it in the cache, and then it creates it using the wrong order. That's all inside try and place pipeline layout. So I'm going to find that. I guess this is the declaration, and this is the definition, and this is the debug output that we just saw. This is a comment, and here's it being called. I'm going to look at the call place first. The first argument is the realized descriptor set layouts, which are sorted by the create info. That is totally random, basically. But as we saw, the hints are correct. At least first sight I thought the hint was correct. Earlier in this stream I already showed this function and what it did. I think. No, this not this one. I think I showed a different one. Okay, well, I guess there's still a bug in here then. So we are entering before, I think before the last change, so let's say the previous stream, this was the place where we did assert. And in the meantime I fixed it that it is ordered correctly, so sorted correctly. So now we're entering with this vector here, and that is being printed, which we just saw. It's being printed here. And then upon inspection, I would say that looks good. Now note that I'm going to jump to the type of this sorted set layouts container, which is a vector of set layouts. And like I pointed out, I also added a hint here. That's a very recent addition. So we are sorting by this vector. The vector itself, this vector is sorted, but we are sorting again by the whole vector. And then we also carry this set index hint now. And well, this is just a handle. So here it checks that the thing is sorted correctly. It must be sorted by this type here, set layout compare. And well, that is the case, so that's great. Then what do we do? I'm locking a mutex here to get read access to the pipeline layouts. Map. This is a map. Yep. It's even more complex. Now we are sorting on a pair of that sorted set layouts container, which was a vector which contains a vector. Right? So, so we have a sorted vector, and then that is element of set layout, which is stored in a vector, which is also sorted, and then that is now element of this pair, plus another vector as a second element of that pair, which is also a vector. And now we're going to sort on that pair. Hello. Yes, it is supposed to be slow, I guess, but we only execute this like once or maybe a few times during the whole game, I guess. Well, it doesn't not need to be fast. Now, as a key, I'm using realized descriptor set layout, so that better be sorted by the. I'm going to continue calling it create info, although now it's a vector of a vector of create. No, a vector of create infos. But it is because we just checked it, right? So that makes it possible to find the same create infos back, and then we know if we already created it or something like it. Doesn't make much sense to create two things with the same create info. And printed out that the pipeline was not found in the cache. So whatever the key is, was not seen before, so we're going to create it. And then what it does is this, which is bullshit. Yeah, remnant bullshit. Before I started to realize that I had two different set index. The sorting was all wrong. What this line is doing is it makes a copy of whatever is in the realized descriptor set layout, which is descriptor : set layout. So this vector here contains this. And this is a vector, so using begin and end here is just iterator begin and end, and it means that it copies it. The types are different though. I mean, this is a VK descriptor set layout, and the other one stores descriptor set layouts. But that works because the descriptor set layout objects contain this. It's happy to convert itself to a VK descriptor set layout if that's needed, and it just returns the handle. I'm listening to music with vocals, so I have to do something about that. No, hopefully it is shutting up now. So yeah, this just makes a copy of all the headers. And well, in the order that they are stored in here, which is by create info order. But they should have been ordered by the set index hint. Now, of course, the problem is that if I would do that, right at this point here, that becomes the real set index. The order of this vector, the indexes of this vector rather, are the descriptor set indexes. So if I pass it like that, if I sort this by the set index hints and then just simply sort it like that and pass it, then they are not hints anymore. Then they are really the set indexes. Which is maybe all good because I couldn't find the key before. Now imagine that later I do find the key, but the set index hints are different. Then we have a problem. Then there is simply no match. So then the create info is correct. But a different mapping is expected onto the, well, at least onto the descriptor sets, numberings. And I think I talked about this 2 streams back, that I had an idea that I would tell the caller about it by returning something, by resorting. That was the original idea. Yeah. I would make this non-const and then resort this vector. So the caller would see from the returned vector then what I expect as set indexes. I suppose you can still do that, except that I'm not going to resort this vector. I did not want to do that. But now I have in the set layout that hint. So either I use the hint or I change them to what I found in the cache. Maybe that's an idea. And that means that it would be correct in this case, because I don't have it in the cache yet, to begin with a simple sort. Is that a sort? Oh, I guess, I don't know. How does that work? Guess I can pass a lambda that takes descriptor set layout, const references. And then we return a boolean if the left hand side. Where's my S? And the set index hint is less than the right hand side set index hint. I suppose now it is sorted by the set index hint, and then it should be correct. While if we do find it, found in cache, and then at the very least I need to fix it, right? So what did I just find then? I did find a well, that's a good question. That is a very good question. I forgot to look at the chat for a bit. I agree with that. Anyone who is not wanting any peace of mind should try creating a game engine. It's a torture. De owner. Several thousand brain cells is not much, man. I think you lose more by drinking one glass of wine. Talking about wine. No. I should have eaten 1.5 hours ago, but there is still time, I guess. And Tai Tubal asked, did you learn C++ on your own? I saw that question before today, and the answer is yes. I do not understand the question. Years of coding? I started at 12, so I did, no, 85. 85 minus 12, 64, right? 64 years of coding. 46. In Dutch, you start with the other one. Yeah, Sean asks, yo, my man, what category do you stream in? I don't know. I think I put it on educational or something. I don't see that. And Iraf said, bro, I just started coding. What's with the bro and the yo here? I just started coding and it's been 1 year, but I don't know anything. What should I do? Well, that sounds like a good begin. People who think they know a lot are usually stupid. So, as long as you have the feeling that you don't know anything, then you're on the right track, I think. Just keep on working and learning, reading stuff. Yeah. Was it? Jivit gave a correct answer. I agree with that. Yes, I remember I've seen your name before, yes. I caught up with the chat. Okay. My subconscious was, in the meantime, working on this problem. I wish. Yeah. It used to do that, but I don't think anymore. I'm not Irish. Ik ben Nederlands, hartstikke Nederlands. What is the problem here? It is possible, I said, that we find back the same create info. Although I probably should be a little bit more specific there. Then think we have it already, but the set index hints that we passed are not what was passed the last time, the previous time, so we have to fix them. Well, let's do the following. Fix set index hints, because they might be different from what they were when this cached pipeline layouts was created. I don't know, for some reason when I talk and I explain things, I constantly think nobody understands this. Why am I being so fake and so unclear? And then when I type in a comment, I'm like, why didn't I say it that way? The comment is clear. The comments are always... Yeah, I don't have a cam, so you can't see me gesturing. I'm even going to assert here, assert false. So it will get back to my attention when I have something to work with, some example. This should fix our first validation error, right? Actually, it just breaks the compile again. Error, no matching function call to object of type. They're doing it again. DIFM is DJs talking, vulkan, vocals. I can't code like that, so I'm sorry for the people who don't like it, but I'm going to put on music again. Okay, you have a minute to protest. Anyone really does not want me to put on music? No matching function for call to object of type. Lambda. No, the lambda is not good. In instantiation of function template specialization, that's not really interesting. Requested here, requested here, requested here, requested everywhere. In instantiation of function template specialization, standard sort, blah 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 blah, requested here. Candidate functional, no known conversion from descriptor set layout to const descriptor set layout for first argument. VK descriptor set layout. Oh, that's nasty. VK descriptor, yeah, of course. Of course. Well, nobody is protesting, I think, about the music, so here it comes. I'm just putting on this again. At least there's no vocals in it. And it's good coding music, I think. Okay, the problem is that this vector contains more information, including the sorting key that I want to use for this vector, which only gets a little bit of information and does not have no information whatsoever about the sorting key. So we must do it completely different, and well, I'm just going to make a map of chars, standard map. Never know what namespace I'm in. Yeah, well, what's in the name? Temporary. I'm not giving it a long name at all. And now we're going to run over something. It's a layout, isn't it? Hello? What the hell? Still not compiling. No matching function for call to construct add. In instantiation of function template specialization. Standard vector, VK descriptor set layout vector. I requested here. Why not? Couldn't the template ignored? Substitution failure for orcs. This is way over my head, or I'm just too tired. Nope, no idea. So there is a problem with this thing here. It says okay. Yeah, of course there is. It is just bullshit. Well, I guess we cannot do that then. So I'm gonna run over that as well. How are we going to run over it? I'm going to run over it using a... Getting angry here. Angry! Why would he even use const? Maya said do not use const, right? Did he? Didn't he? Iter is I think this one. Well, yes. Begin sorted int. It's already handled. Now I'm very not happy with this. It's just ridiculous. Of course it can do this in one line. How would it do this in one line, man? Probably with sophisticated stuff that I never bothered to learn, like creating an iterator, back inserter and stuff like that, and then there was standard for each, and I never used it. The question is it worth it? What I can do is ask someone else who just knows it from their head. Maybe they will answer and type it in for me, and then maybe I'll learn something from it. What do you think? Let me check it again. So we have here, I'm making a map using the set index int as a key and the handle as info. Created, empty. Then we run over our vector and and then we fill our map using the set index hint as the key and the handle as the info. And then we basically copied all the information from here to there, but then sorted by the set index. Unfortunately, we need a vector really. If only I knew the largest value. I think the largest value is equal to the size. We saw that before. Utterly ugly, but that might at least be, you know, shorter. How about I'm doing it like this? Start over. I'm making it as large as the size of this thing. And I just simply fill it in. One by one. So do not use that anymore. Running over this, not that anymore, not that anymore. So I'm just filling it in, index by index. Like that. Now it's 3 lines instead of whatever I had. But, it's at least a little bit better. Hey, it compiles. Just so you know it. And we core dump again. Pipeline found in cache. Pipeline found in cache. That's a assert that I just added. This one. So apparently the first time it's not found, but later on we find it. And now I have to figure out how to change the set index hints at that point. I'm just scrolling up to find the last time that thing was called, but it doesn't seem to be have been called at all. I didn't highlight it. What the hell? Select it. Now it's highlighted. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing. There it is. So here we have a call, and that was said layout not found in cache. And note that now the module, the layout, I mean, that is different from the other two. These are the same, this one is different, and it is first, which is consistent with the set index 0 here. That should fix the validation error, right? Okay, so we have basically this is create info basically. The binding, it does not play a role in that. We have a uniform buffer in the vertex shader. This is always null, so you can ignore that. uniform buffer in the vertex shader, and we have the hint that should be used in set number 1. And then I have another uniform buffer also in the vertex shader. So they are exactly the same. Although this one must be put in set number 2. But what we can do is just create one layout and then use that in both set 1 and in set 2. And then I have one which has a sampler, combined image sampler, so the texture, and for the used in a fragment shader, and it has a uniform buffer in a vertex shader, with this hint that it should be set index 0. So then it creates 2 set layouts, and number 0 is put first, and then number 1 and number 2 put second and third. But they are actually the same layout, because, well, uniform buffer in vertex shader. And then later on we call that function again. And this time we have a uniform buffer in the vertex shader, and another uniform buffer also in a vertex shader, and combined image sampler in the fragment shader, plus a uniform buffer in the vertex shader. So that is the same thing, right? Two vertex shaders plus a uniform buffer, and one with the same thing but also texture in the fragment shader. But the hints are different. That's the whole point of this test. This time it says put that one in 0. Oh, what? That's not different. That is also the same. How annoying. I'm pretty sure that this should have been a 1. That's the test. What the test is about. But okay, we can assume that it is different. So let's say this was saying 1, and the other ones were saying 0 and 2 instead of 1 and 2. So okay, 1 and 2. So this would be 0, and this is 2, and this is 1, let's say. Nevertheless, we would find it that the pipeline layout is already in the cache. And then what we have to do is change the hints such that indeed becomes 0. The reason being that what we found in the cache came from this call, where the thing with the binding 1, sorry, the binding does also not matter really, but the combined image sampler, I also have to fix the binding numbers then, yeah. Okay, anyway, the binding hint, new concept there. So this was anyway in set index 0. How can I find that back? That is my descriptor set layout. That contains the handle and the vector and everything. It's just the whole thing that you are seeing here. Vector of set layouts. Is that still kept? Is it kept together with? Is it kept in the cache? Let's go to the code. There's no code here. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so the information that I need is a vector of set layouts, which is, if you ask me, this thing here. Which is this thing. Which is a sorted set layouts container. Which is a vector of set layout. Yep. And yes, that is part of the cache. Namely, that is part of the key. So if I find an iterator, then that iterator will point to something that has the same key. I might as well use the key itself. No, that's nonsense. That is nonsense. The compare is ignoring the set index hint. So I have to look at the key of whatever we find, I think. So that would be here. Let me remove this in advance. Iter first is going to be the key of whatever we just found, even though we use a key to find it. How can I prove that? Let's say I know what is in the key. Haha, that is a standard make pair. It's a pair, standard pair of these things here. And this map is using, it is a map. There's the map, and it's using this as a key. It's not even important. It is using this as the compare. The pair compare is doing the following. I think both are vectors in this case, right? So we are here. This creates a vector compare from the first compare. And sorts on that first. That's good enough for me. The vector compare simply compares all elements using the element compare. Which is the first compare, which is the set layout compare. Which is another vector compare using layout bindings compare on the sorted bindings. And only on the sorted bindings. Yep. In other words, it's really looking only at the sorted bindings. The rest is completely ignored. Well, apart from the push constant stuff then, but let's ignore that. I don't have push constants in this test anyway. So here's the set layout, and the only thing that is used for the sorting is this. It's completely ignoring the set index hint. And of course also the handle. So iter first is then, there we go again. What is iter first? I'm a little bit tired of jumping to the types every time. So first is this thing, which is a pair, so I can do first, and then I get that one. Let me say I just want to have a const reference to this thing. Just have a look at if this compiles before we continue. It does. Yeah, it is that time of day. I can't see my keyboard anymore. I'm going to turn on the light. The real hackers can just clap on their hands and then the lights turn on. Not to mention the remote control of the curtains. Okay guys, yeah, this did compile. So now I have the sorted set layout container of the thing that was in the cache. Which is simply a vector of the set layouts. And then words. I think I should make the keys equal. I'm not even sure, but I have the vague feeling that that's probably what I should do. Give source code of what? Free file? I don't know what free fire is. My source code is on GitHub anyway, but I'm not Free Fire, so yeah. Yeah. So something has to give here, or so what is set layouts container type? That is this one, and I did not want to change it. Really? I mean, then you could make it a reference and then change it in line. Yeah, maybe I should do that. Yeah, well, I assumed it, but I've been 12 too. So it's very good if you are 12 and you are interested in coding. So like the right age. But it's unlikely that the source code is available. Creative world. Most games are closed source. You should have to explicitly find open source game, which is if you want to have source code. But if it's a really interesting good game, then source code is going to be way too difficult for you, for any beginner. So if you want to code, you should just start with something simple. And then by the time you're 30, maybe you can write your own game, although I doubt that games are written by teams, not by single people. Also not by me. Though yeah, you can use something like Unity, I guess. And then you have still a artistic problem. I wouldn't be able to do any game because I cannot draw anything. I'm not an artist. But you have AIs that can draw these days. I don't have it. And I just said it probably doesn't exist. It's not open source. If it is open source, then tell me otherwise. And if you can tell me that, then I bet you also know where to find it. Okay, let's do this differently because I still want to postpone doing anything until I see what it means. In other words, I'm just going to test that they are the same. In tick tick tick. Yeah, I mean, come on, but I'll just have to edit, I guess. And then I can just do a while loop which only tests that in is unequal the end. And for each element then I do a test, and then I do plus plus in and plus plus out. The test being that in, well, we set index handle, I guess. What? Set index int equals out. Set index int. Oh, let's keep calling it index. So I don't think this assert fires, because as we just saw, it was the same. Mario, super, thank you, man. I'm just doing this for concentration purposes. I thought, you know, I'm talking about my program as if I am explaining it to people, and that is the rubber duck effect. Then I can concentrate better. And to my surprise, there are actually people interested in sticking around. And at first it was 1, 2, but that already worked. And now it's often like 20 or something. Well, currently only 8, 12. I don't know. I don't look at it. Try not to look at it. Well, ain't that neat? Oops, what happens? Okay, now this is the top. And this is the left. And this is the bottom. And everything works. But there should be another triangle here, which mirrors the movement of this one. That one is not being drawn, and that is probably related to the validation errors that we see here. But there comes a time that I have to eat, and I think this is a good moment to do that. And then yeah, we'll fix the other triangle after eating. So people, thank you for watching and the nice words. I wish we had a chat that does not destruct itself when I stop the stream. How about everyone is also joining some chat application? You could use IRC, or is that too much to ask? Boy, most people do not have an IRC client. I'm using IRC mostly for coding questions, so it would be very appropriate for the most people here. It's still a really good source for help and questions. I use Telegram, that I use that for real life things. I use Discord. I don't know, should I probably should run my own Discord server if I want to. So yeah, so if I would ask people to join a chat on Discord, ask the people here on YouTube, you think that would work? And of course I need a moderator, because a real life chat is usually asking for childish behavior, immature behavior. Child is not necessarily immature, I think. It's a degrading word. Let's just keep it at stupid behavior. That's what I really meant. Okay. I'm gonna stop the stream and I'm going to make dinner.